Welcome to Biblical Insight. I'm glad you're here. Listen, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with yourself. Have you ever hit a wall so hard, so suddenly, that you realized you had absolutely no control over your life? I'm talking about that moment when everything you built, everything you counted on, just shattered. Maybe you're sitting there right now holding the pieces of a relationship, a career, a dream you poured everything into. And those pieces don't feel like problems you can solve anymore. They feel like broken glass. You can't hold them without bleeding. You feel bruised, confused, and maybe it feels like everything that defines you has collapsed into ruins. That's the most terrifying place a human being can find themselves, because all the pretense gets stripped away. Belief stops being this comfortable thing you discuss over coffee. It becomes about survival. Right now, today, when the bottom drops out of your world, the question isn't what God is like in theory. It's how do I find the strength to carry on for one more hour? If that's where you are, or if you've ever been there, then stay with me, because what I'm about to share with you could change how you see your current devastation. Today we're talking about something that sounds like a paradox. When everything falls apart, God still works miracles. I know that might sound like a hopeful cliche, but it's a deep scriptural reality. The moments of our deepest collapse are where faith becomes most active, most powerful, and most necessary. The greatest miracles are born in the ruins of our human certainty. So let's talk about how to find unshakable hope and witness God's power not in spite of your brokenness, but because of it. Look, we all hate losing control. It's woven into our DNA. We crave certainty, predictability. We want to know that if we do steps A, B, and C perfectly, outcome D is guaranteed. But here's the thing about faith. It begins exactly, sometimes ruthlessly, right where our control ends. This is tough to accept because everything in us fights against letting go. But if we want to understand how miracles happen in the wreckage, we have to start with how faith operates when we have nothing left. Let me take you to Mark chapter 9, verse 23. Jesus has just come down from the Mount of Transfiguration, and he immediately encounters chaos. There's a desperate father whose son is tormented by an evil spirit. The disciples tried to help, but failed. So this father comes to Jesus and says, "If you can do anything, have compassion on us and help us." Notice that word, if. He's putting the limitation on Jesus. And Jesus pivots that right back. He says, "If you can believe, all things are possible to him that believes." Think about what Jesus is saying here. The power isn't located solely in his ability. It's activated by the belief of the desperate person. All things are possible to him that believes. That's a massive statement when you feel shattered. But Jesus isn't asking for intellectual agreement. He's not looking for someone to nod and say, "Yeah, I guess God is probably capable in theory." The Greek word used here demands total dependence, complete reliance. It's not just acknowledging God exists or that he's powerful. It's practical, hands-off reliance on his ability precisely because your ability has been exhausted. You finally handed over the keys because you realize your driving got you into this crash in the first place. This kind of faith functions best when our human sight fails us, when what you see tells you it's over, when the physical evidence screams impossible, when the doctor's report looks terminal, the bank account is empty, the divorce papers are signed, the business is in ruins. Belief is the single mechanism that can step into that gap. It transforms crushing despair into the raw material God needs to perform a miracle. Think of despair like raw clay. It's messy, dark, feels useless. But God uses that emptiness to shape something completely new. Every true miracle starts with the absolute, often agonizing end of our self-sufficiency. You have to be out of options for God to show you that He is the only option that truly matters. This gets even stronger when you look at Luke chapter 1, verse 37. The angel Gabriel tells Mary she's going to conceive Jesus. She asks the logical question, "How can this be? I'm a virgin." And the angel's answer cuts through all human limitation. For nothing will be impossible with God. We hear that verse often, but listen to what impossible means for us. For us mortals, impossible isn't some objective boundary on reality. It's a limit of our perception, our capability. We look at the mountain and say, "I can't climb that." We hit a wall and slap the label impossible on it. But God looks at that same wall and sees pure opportunity. We see a dead end. God sees a starting line for divine intervention. So how does His limitless power connect with our limited, painful situations? Here's what I need you to understand. God's power operates according to what I call the vacuum principle. It needs the vacuum created by our human inability. Think about how the world normally works. Cause and effect. Our efforts produce results. We push, something moves. We try to fix things, manage things. But God's miraculous power needs a space where nothing else is working, where our efforts have failed, where our plans have collapsed. If you still think you can fix it yourself, if you're clinging to your 5-step plan, trying to network your way out, using your usual coping mechanisms, there's no space for God's power to rush in. Your hands are full of your own solutions. Look, this is challenging because it forces us to confront our pride. We're taught to be self-reliant, capable, strong. Surrender feels like weakness, like giving up. It feels like failure. But the moment you reach that point where you truly have nothing left to hold, where your hands are finally empty, that's the precise moment God is positioned to begin rebuilding. And He does it on His terms, which are better than ours, but often look completely different from what we planned. We often mistake this profound brokenness for the end. We look at the ruins of a relationship, a job loss, a dead dream, and our gut reaction is, that's it. The story's over. We assume that if we're suffering like this, we must be rejected or abandoned. But if we connect this experience to the bigger picture, we find something astonishing. God isn't distant in those moments. He's closer than we realize. Getting this perspective shift changes everything. Turn to Psalm 34, verse 19. This verse feels like a quiet assurance whispered directly to the shattered soul. The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit. Near to the brokenhearted, not distant from them. This challenges every assumption we make about pain and divine favor. Human logic says success means God's blessing. Brokenness means God's displeasure or distance or rejection. But Scripture doesn't just promise eventual comfort. It promises proximity now, in the pain. Brokenness is framed as an invitation for divine intimacy. God positions Himself closest to us when we feel the most shattered, the most worthless, the most beyond saving. Just sit with that for a second. God isn't observing your suffering from some faraway heaven. He is near, right there, present, ready to save the one whose spirit is crushed. That lyric about being so sure your life is through. When destiny feels expired and the pain is overwhelming, that's the exact moment heaven moves in silence to restore what you assumed was a final loss. The Hebrew word for crushed in spirit refers to someone whose internal life is completely shattered. Their will to go on has been destroyed. They feel utterly incapable of moving forward. They're totally depleted. And this is the person God explicitly says He's ready to save. His intervention is reserved for those who've reached the absolute limit of their own strength. When He intervenes, when He saves and restores, it's not a simple repair job. Divine restoration goes far beyond fixing the old vase or patching up the broken wall. When God rebuilds, it's closer to recreation. He doesn't tinker with the old broken thing. He creates something entirely new and better. The old foundation had flaws anyway, built on pride, poor choices, human instability. When God rebuilds, He uses the same raw material, you, but places you on a new foundation built on His character, His purpose, His strength. The next phase of your life will be stronger, more focused, richer in meaning than whatever you lost. Job is the ultimate example of this principle. He lost everything. Wealth gone, children tragically killed, health destroyed, emotional support from his wife and friends turned sour. Everything died around him. He sat in ashes, scraping his sores, convinced he was the target of divine neglect, a place of utter desolation. But look at the end of the story. What God brought about was greater than what Job lost in the beginning. The Bible says the end of Job's life was blessed more than the beginning. He had double the possessions, a new family. But it's not just about the stuff. God didn't recycle Job's past or his failure. He resurrected Job's purpose on a grander scale. Job's restoration was a spiritual upgrading. He says near the end, "I had heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eye sees you." His relationship with God was deepened and transformed because of the devastation. The collapse wasn't the end. It was the prerequisite for deeper knowing. That's the hope you have to cling to. If what you're holding has died, if that dream or relationship or status is gone, that dead thing isn't the conclusion. It might be the necessary clearing of the ground for the next greater planting God has already ordained for you. He never wastes our pain. God doesn't recycle failure. He redeems it. He transforms it into glorious new purpose. So if the end of our control is the beginning of God's work, then the next challenge is how do we navigate the immediate aftermath? When tragedy hits, our vision gets clouded by tears, by fear, by confusion. We can't see the way out. We feel blind, lost in the rubble. This is where faith provides something essential, the critical sightline, the perspective shift we need to find our way out of the ruins. Let's go to John chapter 11, verse 40. Lazarus has died, been in the tomb 4 days. Jesus finally arrives and speaks to Martha, Lazarus' sister, who is heartbroken, frustrated, maybe even angry. She confronts him. "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." You can hear the pain, the what if, the reliance on human logic and timing. And Jesus' response is direct, almost challenging. "Did I not tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God?" If you believe, you will see. Jesus completely flips the script on standard human logic. Our gut instinct screams, "I'll believe it when I see it." Show me the evidence first. We demand proof. We want the miracle delivered, fully wrapped, before we're willing to invest any trust. We want the bank account fixed before we start thanking God. We want the relationship healed before we believe reconciliation is possible. But Jesus insists on the opposite order. Belief precedes vision. You have to choose to believe first, in the dark, in the confusion, standing in the rubble, in order to eventually see God's glory revealed. Believing is the seeing. True biblical hope isn't blind optimism or wishful thinking. It's not just feeling positive. True hope is like a solid anchor that grips hold of the character and promises of God, even when the ship of your life is being tossed around in a collapsing world. It's the deep conviction that God is good, God is faithful, God is powerful, even when every circumstance around you screams a visual lie. It's a conviction held despite the evidence, not because of it. And the conscious choice to hold that anchor, even when your emotional state is chaos. Even when you feel nothing but despair, That choice is what authorizes heaven to intervene. When you actively choose faith in that moment of devastation, you're giving heaven the mandate to step into your impossible situation. It's the ultimate act of surrender. You're saying, "Okay, God, I can't fix this. My plans failed. My strength is gone. But you can, and I'm choosing to trust that you will." And here's the thing. Conditions are never too dark for a miracle. The total darkness, the complete devastation, often provides the perfect conditions for one. Why? Because that darkness provides the highest contrast for God's light, for His glory. A small miracle in a comfortable situation is forgettable, but a total reversal in a hopeless situation, like raising a man who's been dead and decomposing for 4 days, that becomes undeniable glory. That becomes a story that echoes through generations. The darkness makes the light shine brighter. Your current devastation, your brokenness, your emptiness, that's the perfect stage for God to display His glory. Faith is the trigger that sets off the chain reaction. God's presence, His character, His capacity, that's the unstoppable force that carries it out. But you have to make the first move. You have to decide to see the situation through the eyes of faith, not through eyes clouded by fear and despair. Now, let me be clear about something, because I don't want you to misunderstand. Does this mean faith requires us to ignore pain? When we talk about believing in order to see, are we asking you to deny the reality that you're deeply hurting, that you've lost something significant? No. Genuine faith never dismisses the pain. It doesn't pretend the loss didn't happen or doesn't hurt. Faith acknowledges the emptiness, the grief, the brokenness, the tears, all of it, but it brings a completely different conviction to the situation. Faith shifts the discussion away from the crippling inward focus of "what can I handle?" or "how will I survive this?" toward an outward, upward conviction. What can God achieve in this situation, regardless of my feelings or my capacity? This shift is powered by Jeremiah chapter 32, verse 27, where God poses the ultimate rhetorical question. "Behold, I am the Lord, the God of all flesh. Is there anything too hard for me?" The answer is obvious. Absolutely not. There's no situation, no diagnosis, no financial ruin, no broken relationship that's too hard for Him. Listen, the context here is important. God tells Jeremiah to buy a field during the final siege of Jerusalem, right before the city is about to be destroyed and its people exiled. Humanly speaking, that's madness. Buying property that's about to be overrun by the enemy is financial suicide. But God was demonstrating this principle. Divine possibility transcends human circumstance. When you encounter pain, when you face collapse, faith enables you to face it with the bedrock conviction that God's potential, His power, His creativity far exceeds any human limitation, any dire prognosis, any terrifying forecast. Every impossibility you declare is actually an opportunity for Him to reveal His limitless ability and unwavering faithfulness. Faith doesn't necessarily remove the obstacles immediately. Instead, it redefines them. It takes the tragedy that's left you paralyzed and begins to transform it, even while you're still in it, into a future testimony of God's power and grace. It changes despair into expectation. Despair is passive. It drains energy. It looks backward at the loss. Faith transforms that into sharp, active expectation, a focused state of being, looking forward, ready to witness something extraordinary. The change in our language reflects this shift. It takes that feeling of "I have nothing left, I am finished, it's over," and confidently, sometimes defiantly, turns it into a declaration. "Okay, I'm ready for what God will do next, because I am finally out of the way. The stage is clear for Him to act." That idea of being out of the way so God can act, getting ready for what's next, it brings us to a final realization about how God works, especially concerning divine timing. When we're looking at our brokenness, it often feels like our miracle has been indefinitely postponed, like we're just stuck waiting. But let me offer you a much more encouraging interpretation of what's happening during that waiting period. When everything slips through your fingers, that job, that relationship, your health, your financial stability, it's not the end of the story. It feels like it, but it isn't. View it as the necessary clearing of the stage. Clearing a stage of the old props, the old scenery, the old plotline, to make way for a brand new divine act that God intends to eclipse whatever the former situation was. But clearing the stage involves letting go of things we valued. This might be the hardest part of the whole process. God cannot feel a hand that's still tightly, desperately clenched around its own failed solutions or old coping mechanisms, or need for control. We're so busy frantically clutching the debris of what was, trying to tape the broken pieces back together with our limited resources, that we miss the fact that the moment of total loss, the moment our hands are finally forced open because there's nothing left to hold, is often the perfect atmosphere for a divine manifestation. That release is painful. When we talk about letting go of control, we're talking about the deep emotional scaffolding we've built to feel safe. When you let go, you feel that instability immediately. It's terrifying. But that very moment of total loss, that moment of vulnerability, is when the vacuum principle fully kicks in. It creates the maximum space for divine substance, for God's presence and power to enter and fill the void. Look at the prophet Habakkuk. He faced utter economic collapse. He details the disaster. The fig tree doesn't blossom, no fruit on the vines. The produce of the olive fails. The fields yield no food. The flock is cut off, no herd in the stalls. Everything essential for life and livelihood gone. Complete system failure. And yet, what does he do? He makes a conscious choice captured in his commitment. Yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will take joy in the God of my salvation. Yet, despite everything, that's the turning point. That deliberate commitment, that yet is essential. That attitude, that decision to praise, to rejoice, to trust despite all the contrary visual evidence, that activates heaven's intervention. Why? Because it declares trust, not in the circumstances, but in the unchanging character of the one who cannot fail. Faith isn't primarily a feeling. Faith is a decision, a deliberate act of the will. It's not a fleeting emotion that comes and goes depending on whether things look good or bad today. You don't wait until you feel better to believe. You don't wait until you feel hopeful to have hope. You decide to believe first. You decide to trust. You decide to rejoice in God Himself, even when nothing externally has changed yet. And that decision begins to shift the atmosphere inside you, paving the way for the external shift God intends to bring. So let's be clear about the stakes here. If we misunderstand this, if we get this wrong, we risk misinterpreting God's timing or His silence during suffering as His absence or disapproval. That can lead to deep disillusionment. We have to keep reiterating that faith isn't some optional luxury reserved for comfortable, easy times. It's the opposite. It's a fundamental, urgent necessity for navigating collapse. It's the essential tool, the lifeline when the storm rages and we can't see the next step in the physical world. Hope is divine strategy. It's God's GPS system designed for surviving chaos when all our other navigational lights have gone out. It's that intentional conviction, rooted in God's character, that keeps us moving forward, even when our emotions, our circumstances, everything around us is telling us to quit, curl up, and surrender to despair. And here's what I need you to understand with total certainty. Nothing, no failure, no loss, no broken dream, no scary diagnosis, no impossible situation is too difficult for God to transform into a miracle. Nothing is too hard for Him. The sheer scale of your collapse, the depth of your brokenness, might simply be the measure of the glory God intends to display in your eventual restoration. The bigger the mess, the bigger the potential testimony to His power and grace. So here's the practical call to action. Open your eyes, have faith, and see. All things are possible to them that believe. This isn't just a catchy phrase. It's theological reality. It describes the divine mechanics of how God works. The transformation must begin internally, in your personal atmosphere, in your mindset, in your heart's posture, before the external results can appear. You have to consciously open your eyes to hope, to possibility, to the goodness and power of God's character before the physical situation necessarily changes. You start by choosing to see hope, even if despair is currently the loudest voice yelling in the room. Let me give you 3 key decisions you might need to activate right now. First, when you've genuinely lost your reason to continue, when you feel utterly empty, devoid of purpose, actively choose to believe that purpose still exists for you, reserved and designed by a sovereign God who hasn't forgotten you. Second, when the world seems to be falling apart all around you, when everything feels chaotic, frightening, and senseless, actively remember, that nothing is too hard for God. Impossibility is only a limit on your perception, never on His power or His willingness to intervene on your behalf. Third, when you're standing right there, before the ruins of what was, when the sight of the damage feels overwhelming, dare to believe. Dare to trust Him anyway. And if you do, the promise is you will see. You will eventually see the glory of God revealed in a way that is bigger, stronger, and more beautiful than anything you thought you lost. Thank you for being here with me today on Biblical Insight. Look, here's what I need you to remember. Faith starts where your control ends. Brokenness isn't a sign of divine rejection. It's an invitation for intimacy and divine rebuilding. The power of God is activated not by waiting for the right feeling, but by your deliberate, sometimes defiant decision to believe His character and His promises. Trust God's timing, even when it feels like an endless postponement. He might just be clearing the stage right now for something magnificent He wants to do in your life. Be patient in the process. Stay focused on Him, not just the wreckage. Consciously practice letting go of the debris, the old ways, the need to control. Here's a thought to carry with you this week. If your greatest current disappointment is exactly the place God intends to demonstrate His greatest glory in your life, then what action, what small choice of surrender or trust are you willing to take today to begin clearing the stage for Him? I really believe this can change things for you if you apply it. Stay tuned for our next conversation, where we'll dig into more truths that matter. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, and let's keep this conversation going. Remember, your collapse is not your conclusion. It's the beginning of a miracle. Until next time, keep growing, keep believing, and keep moving forward.